One of my favorite things about the word barn, Ben, is the many different ways that my family and I have interacted with it so far. Because we've been there for some great shows, we've also been there to support our daughter in her like camp performances, theater performances, and my wife has done some workshops there. So it's really cool that like can drive to the same space for all these different things. How did you like? I know I'm not gonna like skip ahead here, but your background is in music, right?
Yeah, I'm sort of the music portion of the Word Barn. The whole thing started actually, my wife launched everything. She is a poet and started hosting poetry readings here at the Word Barn. Is actually that's where the Word Barn, the name came from. I always thought that the Word Barn was going to be too small to do anything music wise, even though that's what I always wanted to do. I've worked in the music industry my entire life, and I've always dreamt about owning my own space. I always, in my mind, my dream was always to have it be in a barn, but sort of like one of those, giant, typical New England barns. And when we discovered this property, I was running Prescott Park Arts Festival at the time, and we were looking to move closer to the seacoast, and we were looking for a property. When we found this one, it had everything. We searched actually for 1 or 2 years, and when we found this one, it had all the other things that we were looking for: some land to work with, a great school for our kids, and a really cool house, and a barn. But I thought it was going to be a little bit too small to do music stuff. But that was okay because I was working with all kinds of other venues. And anyways, my wife kicked it off with poetry readings, and then the concerts sort of followed shortly thereafter, sort of by accident. But that's sort of what spurred and started it all off.
That's really cool. I'm looking forward to kind of getting into that journey a little bit more. Welcome to the Compound Growth Podcast with Colin and Wheeler, where we talk all things growth, from financial growth to career growth, personal development to societal progress. We explore how each layer builds on the next, compounding over time to shape who we become. Each week, we break down complex ideas and emerging trends into clear, actionable insights. Because growth isn't just about numbers, it's about understanding the world and our place in it. We are, of course, talking to Ben Anderson, the co-founder of the Word Barn, which, as we were just saying, there's a lot of different ways you could describe what the Word Barn is, but my favorite is the one that's on your website: gathering space for language and song. And that is just like a really cool, concise way to describe what that is. I feel like even just poking around on the website, you kind of see all the other varying business interests that you get exposed to when you go to the Word Barn, right? Like you might get some ice cream, you might get some cool merch from local vendors. You can grab a beer at the bar. You can sit there for a poetry slam, or you can go to a show. It's really, really cool. And Ko-Fi is a proud sponsor of the Word Barn, and we should get that out of the way. But let's talk a little bit
Yeah,
about your
awesome.
journey and how you got to where you are. Ben, where are you from?
I'm from Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, and I'm actually a festival baby. My dad started a festival there, and some of my youngest memories were being dragged along to the various board meetings and whatnot, and sort of playing in the corner, waiting for my dad to finish up at the meeting. I ended up, as I grew older, I ended up volunteering with the festival, ended up working on the site crew, and eventually I ended up taking it over and running it for 4 summers while I went off to university to get a degree, which I thought was the responsible thing to do, because who could make a living in the arts working in music? So I went off and got my degree in environmental biology from McGill, and told myself once I graduated, I would look for a job in both fields, and whichever field I found a job for first is the route that I would take. And I secretly put more effort into the music side of things, and ended up finding a festival in Wolfboro, New Hampshire, that took a chance on a young kid and hired me as their director. And that's what started my journey in New Hampshire.
So, Ben, just kind of piggybacking off of that, a lot of the clients that are listening to this podcast and, we work with our business owners who are thinking about starting a business. So at what point during this journey did you say, like, it's time for me to start the Word Barn?
Well, that was way down the road,
Wow.
right?
Well, so it was sort of like an organic process of, I always imagined the barn was going to be too small to host concerts, and a band was coming through that I had worked with before, and they were looking to do a show. All the other venues were booked, so I offered them to come to the Word Barn to play, and told them it's going to be a little small, but we'll make it work. And we sold it out. It was so amazing, so fun. The energy exchange between the performers and the audience was incredible. Everybody loved it and wanted to do another one, so we added another one. 5 months down the road, and the same thing happened. So then people wanted more, so we added another one, and then eventually it sort of got to the point where we were probably doing like one maybe every month or so. And I had paused, and I was like, this could actually work. There seems to be a market for this small, intimate community space for music, and so I sort of thought, if there's other ways that we can figure out different programming and aspects, we can kind of make this work. And I think we were probably in year 13 now. I think that it was probably maybe year 7 or 8 where we decided, okay, let's go for it full time. And so we pulled the trigger and went for it. And now we do over 115 events a year. And it's primarily concerts, but it's a full range, as you were mentioning, a full range of stuff that you can find here at the Word Barn.
You are our second Canadian guest on this podcast and our second guest who's a graduate at McGill. And it makes me wonder if there are any other colleges in Canada. It's just proximity to the East Coast. I know McGill is a great school. My mom really actually wanted me to get out of America. It's just a funny coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to convince my son just went off to school this year, and I tried to convince him to look north of the border and at McGill, but he stayed down here. So maybe my daughter is sort of eyeing it, so we'll see.
Okay.
My wife almost went there too. That was between her and where she ended up going to Marist, but yeah, she really loved McGill too. That's funny.
It's a great school. I mean, Montreal is incredible. My sister I have an older sister, and she went there first, and she never left. She's still there in Montreal. It's a great city and a great school. But I have no regrets, and I love it. I love it down here, and this whole experience. It's the Word Barn is it's sort of, as I mentioned, something that I'd always dreamed of owning. So my wife and I, we pinch ourselves all the time, and just very grateful for what we have.
So you had it when you kind of started having those first initial shows at the Word Barn. You were still over at the Prescott Park Arts Festival, right?
Yeah, totally.
So it was a little bit of a side hustle for you.
Totally. It was kind of like an off-season project. I mean, I kind of grew the when I first joined the festival. I was there for 12 years. It was very much a summertime only festival, and sort of at its peak when I was there, it sort of turned it into a year-round operation. We had a winter musical that we did and off-season events, but there still was that off-season. So this is sort of something that, these incredible bands were coming through, and they didn't have a place to play. So they were passing by. They were going from like Portland to Boston and skipping over the seacoast. And so I was seeing all this happening, and I'm like, man, we got to put on a show. So I was using different venues, the Stone Church, the Press Room, Bird's Eye for a while it was around. Did some stuff at 3S, and then that's sort of just that chance happening where everybody was full, and we ended up doing a show in the Word Barn, and that sort of launched it all off.
So when you were getting going and the venues were going, and this was kind of your side hustle with the Prescott Park thing, was there like a number that you were trying to get to in regards to like the venues booked and everything? Was there something that you were trying to hit to make this full time? How did you know when to transition this into your business, so to speak?
Yeah, well, again, for those first 6-7 years, it was just jumping on opportunities of bands coming through, and there still is no fixed schedule at the Word Barn. We'll have a rare Friday night. Actually, I think next week we have nothing on a Friday night, and it's simply because there aren't any acts coming through that we want to share and host here. And so that was really heightened in the beginning, where there'd be a month would go by and we wouldn't be doing a show. But people just kept wanting more and more, and we just sort of hit that point where everything was selling out sort of as fast as we could edit. So we were sort of just, gave us pause, and we're like, okay, maybe this could work. At the same time, we had added an Airbnb to the Word Barn. It was a studio, a long-term rental, and we shifted it over to an Airbnb, which is it's a nice subsidy for the business. So that was sort of that was part of the equation. But we just got to that point where we're like, all right, we're doing enough shows. If I was doing this full time, we could sort of ramp it up, add more, and sort of make it work.
So doing a lot of shows, doing a lot of workshops, hosting events, etc. So really diversifying the type of experience that you can get there. And then having that is, I've always kind of been curious about the Airbnb. Like when an act comes through, is that like an option for them to stay there sometimes? Or how does that usually work?
That is a great question because we actually just underwent a big renovation here, built the outdoor stage, but we actually also transformed our green room, which is kind of unique for a venue. So what we did is, we added a second Airbnb. So now we have two Airbnbs, but then separate to that, we redid the green room. So it now serves as housing for artists. So it has 3 queen beds and a twin. So we can house up to 7 performers, which is the most ideal. Yeah, it's the most ideal thing for performers in the world for a variety of reasons. The first thing that a lot of people don't realize is that when a band comes, you roll up in your van, you have all your gear stuffed in, you have to unload it, load it into the venue, you do your show, and then you load it back into your van, drive to the hotel, and then you have to unload it and load it into the hotel because you don't want to have it stolen. And then you have to load it back in the van. So it's a drag. And also you're driving after the show. But here, you load in, do the show, leave everything in place, go down to the green room, enjoy some beers, have some food, and crash for the night, and then go and load your van and go on your way. You also avoid a big hotel bill as well. So it's a really nice. So being a small venue, it's we're up against our challenges of pulling in acts because we're up against larger venues where there's a greater potential for revenue. So this adds to the appeal for us. It's a big cost saver for the band, so they get to pocket more of their earnings, and also makes it that much more of an enjoyable experience. So yeah, it's sort of like a side Airbnb piece for the performers to enjoy, and that's new as of almost a year now.
So basically, you have the revenue from the actual concert venue bookings and whatnot. The Airbnb is obviously a huge help for that. Like, at what point, like when you were going through this, did you decide to add on like additional areas of revenue and just kind of build and scale out the business from there?
Yeah, that's the key to our success. I mean, it's really tough in the arts. I mean, with ticket sales, I mean, the majority of the ticket sales are going home with the acts as it should. But obviously, you need to generate some revenue to offset your costs. I mean, we do have a low overhead, which is definitely helpful, but diversifying our revenue sources is the key that we have found. So we have the Airbnb rentals, we have a partnership with the restaurant, so you can order food, which you add on to your tickets, which is ready and waiting when you come and enjoy the show. We obviously have our bar revenues. In the summertime, we have seating options that you can add on. That's additional revenue. My daughter has an ice cream stand that produces revenue for her as well. And then obviously the Airbnb and just different things like that. We also have a great membership program as well, where it's for a nominal fee for $5, $10, or $20 a month. You can join as a member. And then in exchange, you get a discount code for $5, $10, or $20 back. If you are buying tickets, it's a wash. And if you don't buy tickets that month, that revenue stays with us. So it's an incentive on our end to get people to buy tickets. So they use their code to make themselves whole. And then if there's just not a show there or an event they're interested in, it produces some revenue for us to keep us healthy.
Yeah. So subscription revenue, like it's really, you have to get creative, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really
And then
cool.
we have our rentals on the side as well, which is also a part of that diversification. We found that, we do weddings here, we do private parties, which obviously isn't the focus, but it just sort of fits in well. Weddings tend to be on Saturdays, which is a big night, and acts are primarily focused on the larger venues where they can maximize their ticket sales. So if we can slide in a wedding on a Saturday night and get the band on a Thursday or the Wednesday, it fits really well. Also, baby showers, bridal showers are awesome here. They generally take place in the afternoon, and they're gone by 4, which leaves us enough time to reset everything and do a show. So we can do a 1-2 event on the same day, which is great.
That's clever. I don't think I would have thought of that. That's a good one.
Yeah. So you do a lot of this work with your wife, right? Like this is like a shared responsibility, shared endeavor. It's always, I think, a really unique experience. The other day I was joking with my wife. I was texting multiple people at the same time. And I sent some screenshot to Jess, and she sent me back a question mark because it had nothing to do with her. It was not for her at all. It was for Colin. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's for Colin. And she's like, wife? work husband, very different, right? But it's the same thing for you, right? Like it's how do you manage that? How do you navigate that? Because my wife would literally murder me if she was working with me day in and day out.
Yeah, we've talked about that. So my wife is a full-time teacher. So we've talked about, when it comes time for her to hang up her hat and sort of do this full time. And we sort of, that's given us pause as well of being like, okay, we'll be working together 24/7. But yeah, we sort of divide and conquer, and as I'm sure everybody knows, I mean, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that need to be tackled. So it's definitely a family affair, and we're both working on it all the time, and both our kids are involved as well. I mean, they've sort of like I did, they've grown up and sort of grown into different capacities along the way. My son was in charge of parking in the beginning as a little kid, and I'd encourage everybody to give him a quarter as a tip. And he'd at the end of the night, his pockets would be jingling, and he'd have a big smile, and it was awesome. And then obviously, as he got older, the quarters didn't really do it, but he grew into different capacities. And just this past summer, he organized his own show with some friends of his that had a band in high school, and he wanted to present them here. So he took the reins and organized the whole show, sold it out. And it was a great event.
It is. Yeah.
So how do you navigate kind of like, if this is a family affair and it's like a full-time family affair, how do you navigate just like taking time off, right? Like having an event space and everybody's involved in it. Like it feels like it's ever present, right? There's always something happening there. I just went on like spring break with my daughter. That was nice to have like a little of a bit of a break here, and the business ran while I was gone, right? But it all kind of falls on you and your wife and everybody in the family.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we have carved out some time. We have a really intense Christmas series that we do. It's called the 12 Nights of Christmas, and it's now grown into 18 nights. So we, carve out time after Christmas, 2 or 3 weeks where, we just sort of shut everything down and spend some good quality family time together. And as I mentioned before, I am from Nova Scotia, which is where I met my wife, and we've gone up there every summer to take in the festival that I grew up with. And I took some time off from doing that just with my responsibilities with Prescott Park. And so we've started doing that again, and that requires carving out some time, and we just shut things down and we sort of maximize, we start on a Monday and then sort of go into the following Thursday. So we're really only going dark one prime weekend in the summertime, because it's kind of tough to do that when you're running your own business, you're taking time. Anytime you're taking time off, you're spending money and you're not making money. So it's hard to do that as a small business where you are the business, the family affair. So, but yeah, we carve out some periods.
So Ben, just in regards to the business in general now, it seems like you've got like a pretty solid balance. You've got your routines and everything set up. That must be very different now than when you first started. Like most business owners kind of go through this journey where maybe their anxieties change. Can you kind of speak to that, like how it's different now than where it was in the beginning?
Yeah, we definitely have that routine and that flow now. I mean, it's, of how things go. Again, it's ever changing. And we also need to sort of put ourselves in check because we're ever adding different things, having different ideas of different things that we can do. But yeah, in the beginning, it was more of a scramble. But I've been running events my entire life. As we mentioned, it was just sort of a side project, passion project in the beginning. So, it's just sort of doing the things that we love to do. Just now that we're doing it in a more intense, amplified manner.
How many people are on the Word Barn team now?
My wife and I.
Just the two of you. Okay.
We have a sound engineer, but it's really just us and our 2 kids. But now that my son is off to college, we are down. So we're down from 4 to 3, but we have still figured out a way to make it work. That's one thing that I've always thought was important, even when I was at Prescott Park, is that it's important to be able to have the skill set to be able to do anything at any time, because people always call in sick or aren't able to do something. So that's sort of how that's came to be here, where my wife and I just sort of handle all the different aspects of the job and sort of come up with this route that just set it up so that we're able to do it, and that helps keep the overhead down. Obviously, we do have people that volunteer. We do have people that we call on all the time that love to help out. Like Obviously, with 2 kids, we're called off all the time for soccer pickup or softball delivery, all that stuff. So people jump in and help out to make it work. It's definitely a community. It's definitely a family/community operation.
I think the community aspect of it is so important. We talk a lot on this podcast about AI and the impact of AI in like various areas of life and the importance that we think it places on having a physical location, like a place that you can go to like disconnect and then reconnect, right?
Yeah.
Disconnect from technology, disconnect from everything AI and robots, et cetera. I just heard today that they've developed skin to put over the robots. So we are like 2 days away from Terminator 2 here. But it's so cool to have that physical location that creates this community connection, and the emphasis and importance of that moving forward, I think is just going to get, stronger and larger. So how do you guys think about that? Like, how do you think about your purpose and place in community as our world kind of evolves?
Yeah. Oh man, that is all what the Word Barn is about building community and being a place with a sense of community, which we really we thrive on and want. It's really hard to come here and not interact with people and with the performers as well. They feel that on the stage and when they're here as well. I mean, that's what it's all about, is just being a welcoming space and bring people together, sharing in the same experience in the same space. That's totally key. It's super important.
What did you do, Ben, in the beginning in particular to kind of promote and build that community? Like, how did you scale it?
Oh man, that's a great question. It was sort of that organic thing. Again, when people first came here to that first show, I mean, even before that, when my wife was doing poetry readings, it had that vibe, that feel. I mean, it's a small space. It feels really comfortable, regardless of what the size is. I mean, obviously, poetry has a smaller draw audience than music, so you have a more a crowd of like 20, say, still feels really good in this space, along with when you have 100 people in that environment. So it's just that intimate setting. And sort of when the pandemic came, we were really missing that aspect of gathering. And, we thought we were going to be toast because everyone's crammed in the small space like sardines. And we thought, this is going to be the last place that anyone is ever going to want to be. But then when the weather turned, all of a sudden the light bulb went off and I was like, wait a minute, I organize outdoor shows. Why don't we go outside? And so we went outside, and to our delight, we were so thrilled to discover that the meadow held that same intimate vibe that the indoor space offers up. So now we have that great summer space that offers up that same vibe.
Was that like, I think it's always great to explore like how a business kind of encounters and survives challenges, right? And COVID for the event space was a massive challenge. And I knew a lot of people from my music industry days where like their jobs just shut down, right? Because they were all about setting up productions and touring, et cetera. And it wasn't like, when the government shuts down and then, maybe you get back pay later, like there's just no revenue generated. And it was a huge disruption. You guys were able to pivot, and that's really, really cool. And then it kind of created it almost like you pivoted to an opportunity that made the business bigger and better.
Totally, 100%. And I'm almost embarrassed that, it's like my wife and I said to each other after we created the outdoor space, we were like, wait, we would have figured this out because we had just, right before the pandemic hit, is when I pulled the trigger to go full time. Great move, giving up my regular paycheck and deciding to start my own business right before the pandemic hit. That's okay because we discovered this outdoor space. But we were, honestly, my wife and I were like, we would have figured out to go outside in the summertime anyways, because who wants to be inside when, you have those magical warm summer nights. So, but it really did open up that door to really amplify the whole business model of things and expand that opportunity. Now we have a covered stage out there. It allows us to increase our audience size. Before, we were always holding our audience size back outside so that we had the opportunity to move inside in case of rain, so that we never had to cancel a show. Obviously, canceling a show is devastating because you have to refund all your tickets. You still have to pay the band. So we held our audience size to the ability to move back inside. But now that we have a covered stage, it provides that protection for the artists against rain. So we're able to carry on and increase the audience size, which means we can sell more tickets, which produces more revenue, means we can attract a higher caliber artists, and also more bodies equal more revenue for all the other things like chair rentals, bar sales, merch sales, all those things as well. So that really opened up the door for us. It was a great opportunity.
That's cool. Just out of curiosity, Ben, and this is just me not knowing anything about the industry. Like, how do you go about finding talent? And obviously, there's a revenue component, like you mentioned, but how do you go about sourcing great shows?
Yeah, so so first of all, we feel really blessed that we don't have to have a fixed schedule like a lot of places where you have to be open 5 nights a week, 7 days a week. So we're just trying to fill the space. So our programming is all about like stuff that we love and want to share with people. So I think that has really helped build a loyal following as well. So if people don't know the act per se, they know that it's going to be a high caliber, great act that they can come and experiment and try out, and that they're going to enjoy. Or sort of falls in line with what we program and what we offer up. But the way we find acts is it's a combination of it's sort of a split thing. One is that we're pursuing the act, things that we love and enjoy. When we're reaching out to their camp, their agents, managers, and things, and trying to see if they would be interested in coming to the Northeast, coming to the venue, play the venue. We also have agents that reach out to us. Musicians also, we get tons of solicitations from musicians wanting to play here. We also have a group of agents that we work with on a regular basis. So if I've brought in an act, agents generally work with very similar acts. So if we booked one act that worked really well here, then they're like, well, hey, you might be interested in these acts. And they're coming through. The music industry is also very small. All these performers talk to each other. They come across each other on the road all the time, and they're talking about where their tour is going, and they find out they're going to the Northeast, and they're like, hey, you should go and play this little place called the Word Barn. It has this great experience, a place to stay, and a little ice cream stand, all those things. The word spreads. And so artists reach out to us all the time too, looking for a place to play.
That's what I think is really interesting about this industry right now, is that so much of the revenue, more and more, it comes from, for the artists, comes from touring, right? It's always been a great source of revenue, but now it's like the only source of revenue.
Totally. They've lost a big piece of, the touring was always tour the new record, because you're driving the record sales, and that just doesn't exist anymore. So now it's really just from the shows that they're getting you.
But then they have to share the revenue, right? And they share the revenue with like the venues or the ticket. And obviously a lot of these venues are just like basically physical locations for Ticketmaster, right? Like it feels like it's more prohibitive now for me to go and buy tickets to a show, because the fees will cost the same as a ticket in the end.
Oh yeah.
How do you guys, for me, like I tend to shift to smaller local venues because I don't have the same ticket fees. Like, how do you guys navigate that? Is there great ticketing systems available for smaller venues?
There's not a lot of options. What we luckily found a ticket platform that is actually managed locally. It's not owned locally, so the fees are being shipped off to some major urban center elsewhere, but it's managed local here. So a slice of it is staying in the seacoast, which is awesome for us. It's also on the lower side of what's being offered out there, which is really important to us. I feel the exact same thing. And it really, it irks me to no degree, the amount of fees that are out there. And it's not necessary. It's totally not necessary at all. It's just people capitalizing on that opportunity to charge those fees. And, there's not a lot of ways around it, but we're happy that we're able to keep it as low as possible. We also tell our audience all the time that they can buy their tickets when they're here at a show for any future show with zero fee, even though there is a small credit card fee that we obviously have to eat, but we just like to give them that opportunity to get around those online ticket fees.
Have you thought about that credit card fee? Because a lot of smaller businesses are now just putting that 3% fee onto their customers. How do you navigate changes like that? Because obviously that's a nice opportunity for you guys to save a little bit of money.
Yeah, that's a great question. We sort of shifted it the other way, where we give the audience the opportunity to save that amount sort of as a way for them to avoid the fee, but also as an incentive of lock your tickets in early. There's also that shift as well. People waiting until the last minute has really taken place, of waiting to buy their tickets at the last minute. And it's nerve-wracking for venue owners and artists alike when they're out on the road and they're wondering what the ticket counts are like, and it's on the low side and they end up having a full house that night. That definitely makes things tough.
Yeah, well, there's no robots to buy up all the tickets for the word.
That is nice though about the predictability of that, not having to deal with the robots, because so many times you go to like shows and it's empty, but the whole venue was sold out. Yeah.
I think Colin and I, as small business owners, have had that journey of starting something, kind of building and making some progress, getting some momentum, and then getting that like one big client or that one big customer, that one big thing that kind of proves that you're going to be able to stick. Was there like a particular artist that came through and you said, okay, if we're attracting this type of talent, we're going to get this type of turnout? It's not just about the consistency of how many shows we have, but the type of draw we can bring in. Was there like a moment where you knew for sure, like, or had a better feel that this was going to work?
Yeah, I think that was the first summer of the pandemic where we created the outdoor space. And so many, as you mentioned, so many venues were just closed and they didn't have that opportunity. And everybody was hungry to artists didn't have any place to play except for, to the screen. Everybody was hungry to perform. And we saw that opportunity. And I remember having the conversation with my wife and saying that, look, we can go one of two directions. We can either just take it easy, do a couple shows, or we can seize this opportunity of all these performers that are way oversized for our venue, that just need a place to play, want a place to play, and don't, and are looking. And we can sort of capitalize on that and have like this crazy, bring in these crazy acts. And my wife said, yeah, go for it. Let's do it. And then I can remember like 3 weeks later, our calendar is just like loaded with all these acts because everybody wanted to play and they're all like way oversized for us. That was an incredible summer of incredible talent. And it was just sort of like, okay, wow. And they all loved it. They all, they were here and they just thought it was the best thing ever. And many have come back and continued playing here. And then, it's just sort of, then we went from there. We're like, oh, well, we're never going to outdo that summer. And then, then the following summer we, attract, other amazing, and we're just like, oh, that was an incredible summer. And then, we keep raising that bar and the word just keeps spreading and just continuing to grow in that way.
So I guess, Ben, just out of curiosity here, we talked a lot about community. We talked a lot about like building the business. And then obviously COVID was an awesome time for you. When you set out to do this, was the intention to kind of build that community, or did the community kind of find you by booking awesome shows, by like doing the music and things that you guys really love? Or was there intention behind it? Like, this is the type of person I really want.
That's a great question. And I do have to say that as awesome as we did in the pandemic, as awful as the pandemic was, obviously,
Yeah,
that was a real struggle. Yeah. We ended up making some good lemonade out of those lemons, but those were some mighty, mighty big lemons.
Tart lemons.
yeah, those were some rough ones.
But yeah, the whole basis of the Word Barn is about community and building community and celebrating community. I mean, that's just the art. So the artists that we bring in fit that mold or that vibe of what we're looking to do. It's the same with even from the workshops that we offer. We have a really great owl program as well that is a monthly annual offering that it just all fits that same mold of building community. I mean, the owls, for example, we never we thought that was going to be a one-off event, and we do it every month, and people just love it, and just bringing people of all ages coming together the same space and learning about raptors. It's kind of cool. It's kind of fun, and it's a nice piece. And we mentioned the theater camp that we offer, which is one of our highlights. And it's a 2-week summer youth theater camp where these amazing kids come and spend the day learning a musical, which they perform at the end, and watching them just learn and develop and make friends and see them perform this awesome show at the end is really it's pretty amazing. And we just added a new session for the theater camp for younger kids. It's a 1 week session. We just added that last summer, and it's the same sort of thing. It's just, it's all about just bringing the community together in this space.
I think it's, one of the things that Colin and I have talked about is the difference between a scene and a community, and how a scene can create a community, right? And the scene is kind of like the culture, right? It's kind of like, here's the type of thing that draws in a type of person, and then those people bond and they become a community. If you're a guy that got their degree in environmental biology, and then you have a rustic venue and then a meadow, like you're going to draw, I think, a certain type of customer, right? And then those customers will bond with the other customers that are similar to them. So you kind of create that scene and you create that community. And then it obviously ultimately ends up kind of, looking a lot like you and your interests.
Totally. It's funny. I was just having a conversation. We were working on a new event, a farm to table. We used to do a outdoor one long table, farm to table event outdoors, and we're working on reviving that. We are going to we're about to announce it. It's going to be at the end of this summer in the meadow, which is going to be awesome. But I was meeting with the chef just yesterday, and she does a lot of weddings. She's done a couple of weddings here, and she asked me, she's like, Ben, what do you think about weddings? Do you like doing the weddings? And I said, it's the usual answer to that is no for any venue, but the kind of people that we attract that want to get married here are such amazing. They fit the space so perfectly. So that's kind of what you were describing, is the space itself attracts the same kind of people. And, we don't even advertise that we do weddings here. That also just happened organically. So it makes them very enjoyable.
Not a lot of
It's
brides.
very much like a if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
Cool. Colin, any final thoughts, any final questions for Ben before we let him go?
Yeah, no, I mean, Ben, I just want to reiterate that it was great having you on and learning more. I'm excited to go to a few Word Barn events. Wheeler's spoken so highly about it, and I've read about you guys online. And as Wheeler and I always talk about community, it's really inspiring to see the community that you guys have built and just how successful you've been with it. And it's just a testament to, you being very direct and intentional with what it is that you're trying to build. And I think that's just evident in the success that you've had with this. So thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm excited to attend a few events.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, you get a few more foodie events, and Colin will be there for sure.
All right.
You're broadening your community a little bit.
That's true. I'm definitely a food guy. So if there's any sort of food thing, like you mentioned, I'm there.
Yeah.
I have to say, because my daughter obviously participated in a couple of those camps, and I've seen Peter Pan and I've seen Seussical the Musical, and this summer I'm going to see Godspell, which I don't know really much about Godspell, but it feels like a little bit of an advanced class for my 11-year-old. But, my favorite experience at the Word Barn, I think I just want to share that for a minute. Last year, at the beginning of the year, I asked you, which show you were most excited about. And you said that we have so many great artists coming through. But, The Last Rebel is a group that has outgrown us. And you kind of mentioned that outgrown you. But I think it's like such a cool, unique experience. It's almost like, how can an artist outgrow that? That maybe they could not get all of their fans there, but you could even kind of pitch it as like it's extra special.
Yeah.
Long story short, we were there last year, and you'd built the stage, and you built that so you could have a show in the rain, and that was a show in the rain. And it was the first time I'd sat in the rain and just like sat there and just really, really enjoyed the show. And you could tell how much the band appreciated everybody being there and sitting there in the rain and enjoying the show. And, we had a nice special moment where they came down and just sang an acoustic number with everybody around them. And that's a really unique experience that you can't get everywhere. The band acknowledged that, and they're really excited about it. And you can see how that word spreads and how you bring in the type of talent and the type of acts that you deserve. And it's just really cool to see your ongoing success there.
Thanks. Appreciate that. And those guys are, those guys are awesome. Somebody came up to me at a recent show and said they were at their show somewhere. I don't know if it was in New York or somewhere. And they happened to mention that they were from New Hampshire. And those guys were he came up to me and he said that they were just raving about the Word Barn nonstop. And they ended up, and they crashed here for the night. They were just talking about the whole experience and everything and how much they loved it. So that's, the word spreads like that.
Raving fans are what you want. Excellent. Ben Anderson, thank you so much for joining us today on Compound Growth. Our listeners will subscribe, and go to the Word Barn and see all of the great workshops and performances and everything you have coming up. And I guess buy some honey, perhaps?
Yeah, and get some honey too.
Sweet.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Ben.
appreciate it.
The information in this material is for general information only and is not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Investment advice offered through Integrated Partners, doing business as Ko-Fi Advisors LLC, a registered investment advisor. Integrated Partners does not provide legal, tax, mortgage advice or services. Please consult your legal tax advisor regarding your specific situation. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. The economic forecasts set forth in this material may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that the strategies promoted will be successful.
Compound Growth with Wheeler and Colin, sponsored by Ko-Fi Advisors. Reach out today.